The time now is 6:33, and the family of Aaron Allen has been outspoken about how the criminal case was handled. Joining us live this morning is the Marion County Prosecutor, Ryan Mears. Ryan, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Your reaction to the verdict, the guilty verdict in the death of Lieutenant Aaron Allen?
Well, the first thing you think about is Lieutenant Allen, and you think about all the contributions that he made to the community. And you think about his role as a police officer, but then you also think about the fact that he was a person with a small child, and that little boy is going to grow up without his father. And so, I mean, this case is really just about monumental loss, and not only what our community lost, but what that family lost as well.
Allen's father was critical of your office after the judge ruled against life in prison without parole. Could that have been done differently? And how do you handle the criticism being leveled by the Allen family?
No, there's nothing we could have done differently. And for us, we just need to focus on the work, and we need to direct our attention back to the case. The most important thing for us at that point was to make sure that we were able to secure a guilty verdict in this case, which we were able to do. And so that's where our energy and our resources went, is what can we do to make sure that this person is held guilty, so that there's a level of accountability for their actions. And that's where our focus was at. And fortunately, the judge ruled in our favor and did rule that the defendant's guilty of murder.
Your office did not agree with the judge's ruling on the issue of life in prison without parole. So is there any way to ask an appeals court, the state's high court, to review the judge's decision?
Well, one of the things, we don't initiate our own appeals. That's ultimately up to the Attorney General's office. But certainly that's a conversation we'll have with the Attorney General's office and kind of lay out where we're at procedurally and some of the arguments that we would potentially like to see advanced. But that's a conversation we'll have with the Attorney General's office, and ultimately it's their call in terms of how the appeal is going to be handled.
And so just to be clear, is it something that you would ask Attorney General Rokita to at least request the court to review, just to make sure that the family's okay with this?
Well, we'll definitely meet with the Attorney General's office and kind of outline the posture of this case. This case has been an extraordinarily litigated case. There's been a number of issues that have already gone up to the Indiana Supreme Court involving this case. So the Attorney General's office is very familiar with the procedural posture of this case and some of the issues that we encountered during its pendency. And so we'll continue that conversation. We've got good relationships with the individuals who are in charge of the criminal appeals decision, and certainly we'll rely on their advice. But ultimately, again, they initiate the appeals, and it'll be ultimately left up to them to decide if an appeal is pursued.
All right, another high-profile case that your office is working on is the death penalty case involving, of course, Breanne Lee, the IMPD officer killed in the line of duty. Any developments on that case?
Not at this time. I think the one thing that we've learned from these death penalty cases is they take a significant period of time. During the discovery process is oftentimes very long, and we're kind of in the midst of that discovery process right now. The average lifespan of a death penalty case is measured by years, not months, and we're probably at the midpoint in terms of all the things that we need to do pre-trial. So there's going to be some time before you see significant developments in that case.
And Ryan, your office has really moved on a number of initiatives to address some of the violence that we're seeing across the city. And while Metro Police tells us that as far as the numbers are concerned, the number of homicides are down, we're still seeing a number of just violent shootings across the city. What's your message to the public that's wondering what is going on in Indianapolis?
Well, the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to continue to build trust in the community. It's an unfortunate, but it's a sad reality, is that too many people who are involved in violent crime don't provide the level of cooperation that we need to advance a criminal prosecution. And so we have to get more people to come forward with information so we can pursue justice for those individuals. That's the bottom line. There's not a shooting or a homicide that has occurred in Marion County where someone doesn't know something that happened. And so we need to make sure that we're investing those resources in our community to build that level of trust so people are comfortable with that and comfortable coming forward with information that will ultimately allow us to be in a position to hold people accountable.
Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears, thank you for joining us this morning on Good Morning Indiana. Sir, have a good day.
You do the same. Thank you.